Giancarlo?
Yeah. So
Yeah.
really quick, since you mentioned 4 and 7 avoiding the depth of 4 6, so between 471, 479, and 478, can you rank them? Which one will avoid talking about negative or dark emotions the most, and which one the least?
479.
And
They're
then
least, yeah, they try to, even if I mistakenly, in some people's minds, when I was teaching it on all fours, because David was really articulate about the four experience as a 468 and as a sexual social 468. And we would have these weekend workshops and study groups with the fours. And there was like the four who showed the persona of happiness and a lighter quality. And how did they do that? Especially if they were social four. They would be engaging, and it's the four that comes forward a little more, and they can seem kind of two-ish. So I just said, yeah, it's kind of the fours, they're the happy four, but they're still longing for everything that the other fours are longing for, but they're willing to sacrifice for the sake of fitting in. And so they're social fours, 7, 9, so that 9 can't show you, they minimize their negative emotions. They minimize all their emotions. They try to keep them in that zone of kind of mid-level. And the 7 gets bored and doesn't function well if they're in their negativity. And so what happens is the 7 and 9 that need things positive will, in a way, win over the 4's need to go into the negative emotion. Now, I'm not saying they don't go into negative emotion, but what I am saying is they do it privately. They don't display it outwardly.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. Okay, and if there's a 471 with a strong 9 wing, it will be stronger than with a 2 wing. Like 1 wing 2 will be more.
Well, they always have both, right? Yeah, but 471 has an interesting dichotomy because what happens is they all connect to 1. So the 4 has a line to 1, the 7 has a line to 1, and the 1 is a line to 4 and a line to 7. So it becomes this uber idealistic person that is angry if things aren't ideal, if they lead with 1, because they're just repeated, because they're all connected. Just like the 369, they may adapt and adjust, but it's very hard for them to have their individuality because they're always adjusting. So holding on to their individuality is tough. But if they have 2 types that are like the 6 and 9 with 4, they'll think they're a 4 because that gives them identity. And it names something important. Yeah, the 147, like I've even had 147s that were social, that when I asked them, give me an example of what happens when an ideal concept that you want to contribute as a social is not enacted. Well, the 1 wants things to improve. They need improvement to feel alive, to give meaning and purpose to their lives. So they'll give some example like this, where they join a group, being social, to make a difference, to improve circumstances. But then in the group, people are not carrying their weight, or it doesn't go anywhere. It's more of just a social group. Nothing's improved. And they feel angry and resentful because they joined the group to improve something. And so the idealism becomes like a fixed kind of gut type granite perspective. And then they don't know what to do. Do they still have the issue that they want to see improved, and they're still willing to donate their time, and they still need to be accepted by a group, but it's no longer going in the way of their ideal, their vision, because the 1 wants to see it manifest as improvement. The 4, it needs to be ideal as well. That's why it's triple ideal. And the 7 has the ideal vision. So when it doesn't happen, they're very, very frustrated and grumbly, is the way they report it. And they are. any of us can be grumbly, but the way the 147 is when the ideal isn't manifested. So they try very hard to improve, and they try to figure out what'll get other people to want to move towards improvement. And then they're kind of heartbroken because it's not happening. And then they think there's something wrong with them and they need to improve something within themselves to find the right group that will follow through with seeking improvement. But they can't stop. If they can't improve others, they try to improve themselves to be able to improve others. And then what was the other question? And
Oh, no, yeah, I was just trying to type like some person in my life who he's either a 9-wing 1 or a 1-wing 9. I can't decide. Definitely a
oh,
gut type with 7 and 4.
well, the
And
9 won't complain as much. They'll just not do. The 1 will actually say, you didn't keep your word, you didn't do this, and they desperately need to see improvement. And they think they're being helpful and that it'll like get others to do it, but they can come across critical. Now, the most critical is the 146. So they suffer the most with feeling misunderstood and misunderstanding others. Yeah. What do those types share in common and how are they opposite? So, what does 1, 4, and 7 share in common? A need for the ideal. So, when they come together, boy, that ideal is giant. And it's easy for it not to manifest one way or another. And so they have frustration over not seeing it manifested. So it's triple frustration. And yet they're willing to work hard to make something manifest because of the 1. And they're able to see the nuances of how it could reach that ideal standard because of 4. And the 7 has the long range vision. So what's possible is extraordinary. That's why we need all tritypes. Okay.
yeah, no, I think I think it's actually 1. Just that 9-wing kind of makes the anger more cold or silent treatment as opposed to like with a 2. There is more of like, hey, I told you that. No, there's
Yeah,
none of that.
it'll be more indifference or just
Yeah,
doing it. Go, like if you say, well, will you do that? And they'll say, okay. And then they don't do it. And then
yeah,
you're the problem for complaining about it. It's that we all have defense strategies and they all work one way or another to some degree. And we need them all. We need every single combination. I mean, just in the beginning of the test, by ranking the 3 cards for each type, and then we look at your choices, and each time you had a choice point, you're given that choice point again with 2 sets of cards, your first choice and your second choice. But even though I didn't include your third choice card in the test, it's still the anchor. And why was it third? And it's very meaningful because maybe 2 were really close, or maybe it was also close. But still, the testing is with the first 2. If I did a third set of testing with the cards, we don't do as well. We're bored. We're not going to pay attention. And that's why I intersperse it with the written word and did that with the subtypes too. And then it's all the patterns and then how they come together. And so they found this genius programmer during COVID that could do all these things. And I go, okay, this is what I saw in person. This type does this, and that type does that, and that instinct does this. And he put them all in. And in the beginning, I thought, well, it'll just notify them if they need to go deeper, or that it's usually the 6 or the 9. I was going to do all 9 types, but the other types have clear patterns. And so do the 6 and 9, but they just don't like that the patterns reveal what they're doing because people can, when I was still doing the beta testing, I said, if there's any problems, let me know. And I did it for 3.5 years. And the people would say, hey, Katherine, you do have a glitch. I didn't choose 1 6 card deliberately. And it still said I was a 6. And I go, are you a 6? Well, yeah, but I just wanted to test the test. And I said, well, it's picking up your patterns. So even though you didn't have a single card, it tracks when you make a choice and if it's the same choice another time, Or like if you have 5 and 7, it's kind of pointing to 6. You have to make sure it's not 6. If you choose 8 and 1, it's pointing to 9. And it's mapping all the things I saw in person with people and with thousands of people, because I worked in organizations all the time and with groups, as well as my regular clientele. So I had both the research interviews of 3 hours and working with people. And so I knew what happened. Some people, when I put the cards out, they would see that I then picked them up and put them to the side. So then they'd do it and put it to the side. Other people just wait. And they would have seen other people pick them up, and I just studied everything. And then you just have to see if it's true or not true, or how much it might be true. And then you explore further to check it. So all I can share is what I have found, and I could change my mind. You know, if all of a sudden a new piece came in and everything kind of clarified in a new way. And that's why in the beginning, when I first did the formal research, I said, okay, this is what I know now, but please be open, because I'm going to add more and more and more. And so some people that really like Tritype never saw what I added, but I just kept doing studies, and then it got more and more and more specific. So if they didn't know those steps, which most people didn't, with the synergy of the 3 types, and I do explain it on my website. I did insert that for now as kind of an excerpt from my upcoming book, but I keep changing what's on my website. So you might want to go look at that now, because I added extra pages on the 20 steps. Now they move very quickly, so you have to find them in motion. But I'm trying to find the magic way to say it, that it isn't just these 3 types we relate to. You must have the merge, and numerically underneath it, are you a 1? Like you could be a 9 in the gut center, but your numerical value, like with the 379, becomes 1. So the 379 is very 1-ish, but they're initiators, but they don't like closure. Whereas if you have 1 in the Tritype, you must have closure. You must improve. That's what your gut's telling you need to do. So those are the things I've learned along the way. And I'm happy to share those. I'm the only one that actually studied and went to intensives with each of the schools and with the Chazo and Naranjo, and did 24 research studies. So I feel like I need to just share that. And then you guys can decide how true or not true it is. But at least if you have the right information, you can check it out. So I will do this again if people want me to, because I've got so much in here, you have no idea. And I respect all of you wanting to make your own contributions and to understand this system at the same level that I did and do. I've never gotten bored in 40 years. Can you imagine never being bored with the system for 40 years?
Yeah, share everything you want to share. You have a beautiful brain.
Yeah.